wearing loose clothes and never wearing any makeup. So in that sense, the wife can be very chaste. But also, like Marty, she tried to stop Candra, but she couldn't. So what a wife should do if a man is, the husband comes like that, I don't know. But it's mostly prevention. But unless he goes and learns karate or something that you like kick him in the head, it can be very difficult. So again, I guess a high spiritual standard and chastity of both partners and high spiritual taste. Then otherwise, like it's practically impossible to live so close to, like I'm happy in Brahmacarya, living so close with a woman, sometimes even sleeping in the same bed, almost impossible. But with a lot of focus. That's why like Grihasthas, they are in one sense they are considered more advanced than Brahmacharis. Because there are more temptations and it's an advancement of ashram. Normally you start as a Brahmachari. Of course also it says Brahmachari, and you've been Brahmachari for many years, it's practically sannyas, same. But all of them are ashrams. And ashrams mean spiritual culture. So if the spiritual culture is strong, it is possible. But it's definitely difficult. Very difficult. So that's what you can do.
They also have to leave each other to be vanaprastha.
Yeah, at one point they
sannyas give back to him.
Yeah. Prabhupada says at 50, huh?
Yeah.
Normally 50, that's vanaprastha and gradually later sannyas. Mm-hmm. So vanaprastha definitely means no more.
Just a comment to that. It's explained. Prabhupada says, when Devabhuta and Karna Mamuni, they took vanaprastha, they were living very austerely and not combing their hair and not dressing very nicely, and they reduced their sense gratification very much in regards to eating. They were eating only roots and very, very austere food. And Prabhupada explains, because they were living so austerely, and even though they were together, man and wife, the sexual attraction couldn't come up because of their austerity.
Yeah, and she was not so attractive. You mentioned like later when actually she wanted a child and he arranged all this. She went down to the lake there and all these maid servants, heavenly maid servants came. And she came out very beautiful. She was a princess, but because she's been living so austere and practically not eating, so all the fat of the bodies became very thin and like very not grooming her hair and all these things. So she was not so attractive.
But they also lived in the forest, right? So it's also said in the video.
Yeah, we're not doing the modern
society.
society.
It's that, like one of Prabhu was explaining, we are living in this Western society where everybody is like such a sense object outside. So when the husband comes home, he should be treated with kind words and not the sensual way, but just you should be a little pleasing. Like if we would shave up and I don't know, it just doesn't make sense.
Chastity, not like it's not that both should. Women are women, men are men. Balance, but chastity.
What kind of relationship they follow between the wife and husband when they would like to follow the Brahmacharya ashram?
That's just because one is always ending Grihastha ashram, so it means still like going to work and taking care of these things, but just without sex life, dedicating one's life to Krishna consciousness. So it's like same. The only difference is Brahmacharis are not married, Grihasthas are. Otherwise, it's more or less the same. There's very little difference between Grihasthas, real Grihasthas and Brahmacharis, real Brahmacharis.
Prabhupada is describing they should help each other in advancing Krishna consciousness.
And especially seek inspiration from each other. Right? A pure Grihastha is so inspiring for a Brahmachari, and a pure Brahmachari is so inspiring for a Grihastha. But mainly it's like one is just completely engaged in Krishna consciousness 24/7. So there's no time for sex life. And simply one is too busy. especially grihastas. Grihasta just means working hard all day and when you come home, that's your Krishna consciousness. See many places around the world where this is practiced. That is, grihastas, they go to work, and in India that's often 10 hours a day. And then they come home and have Namahata groups and go to the temple in the morning before work, and it's their life. So when they come home at 8 or 9 o'clock in the evening, they just crash. No, there's no energy for anything else than just sleeping. Wake up next morning, go to work, whole thing. Full absorption. That's the thing. And getting taste, like studying Prabhupada's books, taking shelter of the chanting, this is our lives. And then the other things, they become less and less important, like material things, especially sex life and all things, becomes less and less attractive. That's the idea.
Well, actually, even when, the sex life is only for children, so not in your Vanaprastha, that's nothing, but that's also nothing if you get this, the children.
Yeah. It's mentioned one child sex. That's what it really is, real. And
so what's the difference about Vanaprastha? Because, maybe no more family with children grown up or something like that.
Grihastha often means that full dedication. There you maybe leave work and just preach, travel and preach, or stay at one place and preach, just study and preach and really engage in Krishna consciousness. More optimizing, or what's the word? Optimizing your devotional service. I'm looking for another word, but that word. Optimizing your devotional service.
I remembered very relevant quote from Prabhupada regarding this. He said that at the age of 50, then the husband and the wife, they should separate and...
No, often they will take Vanaprastha together.
Okay, but at some point, anyway, they will separate.
Often the man will take sannyas.
Can I read this much? If one is in full Krishna consciousness, he can make his home very happy. Because this process of Krishna consciousness is very easy. Easy. One need only chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Accept the remnants of foodstuffs offered to Krishna, have some discussion on books like Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, and engage oneself in deity worship. These 4 things will make one happy. One should train the members of his family in this way. The family members can sit down morning and evening and chant together Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. If one can mold his family life in this way to develop Krishna consciousness, following these 4 principles, then there is no need to change from family life to renounced life.
Yeah, very good quote. Prabhupada also says, in one sense, there's no difference, right? Grihastha, brahmacharis, no difference, if it's really grihastas. Prabhupada often used the term grihastha brahmachari, and it's the same, always the same. And I like the point there, because I didn't mention that, deity worship. So of course you are so fortunate to live in the temple, so you're already part of the deity worship. But the more one can engage, especially deity worship, is especially for grihastas. Because then normally they're living in their own home, right? So then you need the deities to make your home a temple, and then everything is centered around the deities.
It was just according to this Krishna avatar said about from Grihastha to Vanaprastha, and what's the difference? I heard a lecture and I just wanted to confirm that as a Grihastha, then you do this Dharma, Artha, Karma, and you actually do enjoy, but according to the Vedic regulation, because that's why you enter this ashram. Because if you do not try to enjoy, if you try to go to the Grihastha ashram in a very, very much renounced way, then you might come up on the other side and say, if you do it fully, you try to enjoy it, then you will realize it doesn't work, it doesn't make me happy, and then you can renounce. But if you try to be renounced while you are in the Grihastha ashram, then you come out of it and you say, well, it didn't make me happy, but maybe I didn't do it the proper way.
Yeah, there's 2 methods, like Pravriti and Nivriti from process. Really, the Pravriti part doesn't really work. It's just taking so much that you just become tired of it. Okay, it doesn't work. So Prabhupada also gave that, like one that was intelligent learned by hearing, one was less intelligent who learned by experience, and a fool learns in no other way. So if you can learn by hearing, no matter what ashram, right, it doesn't work. Sense gratification doesn't work. If one is intelligent enough, clear enough, and pure enough, then one saves oneself so much trouble. Otherwise, you can say the Grihastha life gives a little more scope for material freedom and sense gratification.
Not so much.
But that's also very dangerous, right? Because you have your wife just next to you all the time, and you can close your door, right? You can sleep all day, even like nobody will come and complain. If you live in a temple, the Brahmacarya ashram, you're not.
No, your
especially
wife
here, you're sleeping in a temple. Hey, get up! You woke me up the other day. Huh? Hey, yes. So it's basically impossible to oversleep. You're living in Brahmacarya ashram. It's very difficult to be in Maya. Like the sleeping together, like a Brahmacharya never sleeps alone. He's like in optimal, a Brahmacharya is never alone. He will never travel alone, he was never doing anything alone. That's a high standard, but if one can follow that, one is constantly protected. But immediately one is alone, the mind starts contemplating, hey, I can do this. Especially at night time. That's the dangerous. When you go to sleep, that's the dangerous time. So there, again, one has to be very tired or again, being in association. Prabhupada says a real Brahmacharya, and I'm not, ultimately, obviously, because Prabhupada says a real Brahmacharya, he sleeps before the head reaches the pillow. So you lie down before you even reach the pillow, you're asleep. So then there's no question of doing anything, masturbation or anything. But as I said, I'm not, because I'm very difficult to sleep. I can't sleep at night. So often I just listen to lectures until 12 o'clock. But being around other brahmacharis constantly, or especially just amongst devotees, but very much amongst brahmacharis, is a very safe position. That's one of the great advantages of brahmacharya life, constantly protected. You're in the ashram. Grihastha ashram means also ashram, but there's only two, and when you get children, more, but children will not protect you in that sense. So it's only either your wife or your husband that will protect. But living in an ashram like that, you have full protection. So we just need to really take advantage, engage ourselves, seek the association, be constantly with the others. Then we're in a safe position.
But
Grihastha is more dangerous.
But actually, Prabhupada didn't talk so nice about his own Grihastha life. He said, I was disgusted by family life.
Yeah. And that's the purpose of it. Ultimately, you become disgusted, because you find out, as you said, it doesn't work. So ultimately, you become disgusted. That's the whole thing. Ultimately, just hey, what am I doing here? I was like Sabai Muni, you mentioned before. He was underneath water meditating for a long time, and then he saw two fish having sex, and he went out, he married 60 princesses, if I remember correctly. Well, and afterwards he comes to the realization, how could I be so stupid? It's just so close, right, to take yogi perfection and just seeing some fish. So that's the nature of
it. It was the reaction.
Huh?
It was the reaction of the offense to Garuda.
It was
the reaction.
The reaction. Oh yeah, for offense. Yeah. So that's really also a lesson here. That if you offend devotees, we spoke before, then all protection is taken away, and then you mentioned that the flame is just...
Krishna must take the charge about the situation.
Yeah. I have a question.
Yes,
what do you mean by chastity?
Chastity.
And how can you wife be chaste towards husband?
To not tempt sexually, to not really to dress chaste, as you're obviously doing. Dress chaste and act chaste. Just being, what's it called, Patni? Something like the wife is called
Dharma.
Huh? The Dharma Patni, of course. Dharma Patni, one is really protected by Dharma. So following the real lady Dharma of being chastity. Prabhupada says what makes a woman beautiful is the chastity. So we see in the materialistic world, people do the opposite, becoming extremely unchaste, and it's vulgar. It's not even attractive. You say they're out there, right? They're showing everything. They walk around like they just got out of the shower. So everything is just exposed. So it just becomes vulgar. It's no. So chastity is really what makes a woman beautiful. So, and then it protects because that's the nature of chastity. It's not so much, you're trying not to tempt sexually or like play in that kind of feelings. So that's the nature of women dharma, real women dharma. To help the husband, to support the husband, but not to test him or tempt him.
It was just also in Kali Yuga for a husband and wife to take kshetra sannyas, to live together the whole life. And like if you live together like one of us is said and sannyas, then you simply together, you preach and practice Krishna consciousness together, because there are those devotees who take sannyas and travel like the gurus and but in Kali Yuga it is not recommended for most to leave actually the shelter of the wife. I mean, there's no need
it's more
for it if you both
in the mind you take not only in the mind, but it's consciousness. So you renounce everything. So that means still you don't need to go to the forest. This is not our process. But you still, in the mind you go to the forest, so to say. You should all live in Vrindavan. So in the mind you go to the forest, you live in Vrindavan, but you stay in your, what's it called, paradise?
Designated place.
Yeah, what's it, Desa? Prabhupada, the place where you're born or the place you're serving. So that's your kshetra sannyasa, that's how you really go to the forest. You stay there, but in consciousness you're living in Vrindavan, meaning completely dedicated to studying and preaching.
It was just because Andrew would like said that one separate, but it is not like so needed. It may be in certain circumstances the best, because you are prepared to fly your own airplane.
Yeah. And but we also mentioned that normally vanaprastha means together, but later sannyas means separation.
But kshetra sannyas, because one time many years ago I asked about to some gurus what is kshetra sannyas, and he said you live together, husband and wife, in a holy place. So
that kshetra means place and sannyas,
so if you are engaged like that, just like Lord Caitanya said to Brahmacarya, no need to leave. But it doesn't mean, like it's individual in its case, because after all you're just supposed to become detached completely.
Yeah.
But still in Kali Yuga it is very, very dangerous often to leave the shelter that one gives to each other in the Grihastha ashram. So to remain chaste to each other is also like a very high platform.
Very, very. So different things, like again, real sannyas means the husband leaves. That's what sannyas means. But kshetra sannyas is something different. That's where you dedicate yourself to stay in one place. Like Gadadhar Pandit. It's a kshetra sannyas.
I would like to say to Mataji, Prabhupada is describing about this, how the wife should act in the ashram grihastha. When the husband is coming, she should be smiling, nicely dressed, using nice words, because when he's out, he's meeting so many stupid situations, he's tired, and he was stressed at home. He can take the charge about the home to clean it and prepare nice food, and then they can eat together, and I think like Prabhu was reading, we chant Hare Krishna in the morning and this and that, and it's like this. And to Prabhu, also if you will talk to real grihasthas, then they will discourage you from ashram grihastha or inspire to stay Brahmacarya. Because they have the realization, I mean real, not who are following the protocols. And then you will hear, don't do it at any stage of your life.
Again, association, that's the key word, especially with master devotees like sannyasis.
Last the supposed 3 Brahmaswami from Darshana and so forth. And he looked at me and he asked, "Do you want to be married?" I said, "No, I don't know. To be honest, I don't know. Forget that."
Probably the same in Tamil Krishna Goswami, this book Servant of the Servant. At one point, Tamil Krishna Goswami comes to Prabhupada and Prabhupada asks him, "So, do you want to stay Brahmacharya or do you want to get married?" And Tamil Krishna Goswami says, I discussed with the other Brahmacharyas and I think I'll stay Brahmacharya. And Prabhupada said, "Good, Grihastha life means 70% chance of not going back to it." It's the only place I saw this quote. And then another time later, because we know later, Tamil Krishna Goswami, he did become married. And Prabhupada said, okay, if you want to get married, but he already warned him.
I have a doubt in relation to the Grihasthashram, that you mentioned that the following Grihasthashram is ultimately, giving distraction and ultimately one can use the Grihasthashram and you gave the example of Saubharamuni. First he married 60 queens and after that he was thinking about why I am doing this thing and he left 60 queens. And what is that?
He was talking to them.
Yeah. If, for example, one is following the Grihasthashram and after that he will think that what I am doing, actually this is not my position, and he suddenly leaves the wife. What is the position of that guy?
That's the worst thing you can do. If you said A, you will say B. So you promised before everything that is holy, like you gave you say I will protect this my wife. So now it's your duty. So when you take the decision, when you take that step, then you're there. That's why all the, especially these big decisions in our life, we have to think twice or maybe even 10 or 20 times before doing. Because all these things can seem very tempting, but often you end up in a situation that's not so nice as it looks. So that's why if one, and this is speaking mostly to the Brahmacharis because you're already there, but if one is having these thoughts, hey, should I get married? Better think really, really good, and really contemplate also the bad sides. I'm not saying it's only bad, it's not, there's also some good sides. But it's much easier if you can stay Brahmacharya. If, however, you choose to get married, okay, but it's for life. So that life actually means until you get 50, and then it can take vanaprastha together, and then when you get 60, 70, you can take sannyas. So that, you have to think many, many years ahead. And that means really dedicating one's life to serve one's wife. She's serving the husband, but the husband is serving the wife. It's not like, and this is a misunderstanding, because you're from India, so you have the whole culture, right? The wife is serving the husband, cleaning the house, making the food, but the husband is also serving the wife. It's both protection, also of course making money, but also being supportive and being there, talking with her. It is said a man he's speaking, how many words is it now?
10,000.
10,000 words. And a woman is speaking
30,000.
30,000 something.
So when you are going to
normally,
job,
they made some surveys. So when you come home from work, you're spoken your 10,000 words. So now you can just sit down and read or do something, right? And you're completely. But your wife still have at least 20,000 words left. So she wants to converse, and how did the day go? And I really just know, then it's a duty to be there and take care of her needs. You cannot only think, I have my needs. Right? I was working hard all day and now I want to relax. No, she has her needs. So that's your duty to take that. Take care of that.
Still you can have Krishna Katha, it must not be.
Yeah, for sure. You can choose what to like. Of course, a good wife will speak about Krishna and a good husband will do so. But material life is not a bed of roses. It's just a lot of austerity, no matter what ashram. Some are more geared towards Brahmacharya life, which is easier. And some are more geared, most people are more geared towards Grihastha life, more difficult, but there's always some more freedom. There's some more freedom that you can choose. Okay,
But you must pay the price for that.
You choose, Brahmacharya, you just eat whatever comes, right? You can choose, you say, your wife, I want this, or the wife wants to surprise you, she makes a very nice dish for you. And all that, you have more freedom as Grihasthas, but there's also more responsibility and much more problems. So that's, again, both what's best, difficult to say, depending on our situation. Prabhupada mentioned in the 8th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam the story of Caitanya the elephant, if you read that. He mentioned there in the purport that one has to be in the ashram where one can make announcement. And the example, if there's the elephant walking out to this lake where the crocodile bites him, and he's fighting with the crocodile, and Caitanya the elephant is losing because he's not in his right environment. So if you're not in your right environment, if you're just a pretender brahmachari, it'll be very difficult. You're not in your right environment. You're actually living in your mind, you're like a master. So that's why it means really, whatever ashram you choose, take as much as you can. Preferably the whole thing. Really live that dharma, follow that dharma fully. If one is capable of doing that, that's perfect. And that makes life easy. But one should see life as a sacrifice, that's the thing. Like Grihastha doesn't mean just I can enjoy. That's Grihamiti. All it depends, it's for giving blessing to Krishna. It's not your wife, it's Krishna's wife. It's not your husband, it's Krishna's husband. Right? But we are serving Krishna together in this ashram. So in this sense, we are supporting each other, helping each other, protecting each other on that path of being Krishna conscious. So if one thing this is so I can enjoy because nobody else can see, that's Grihamiti. So very difficult. But if one can do it, extremely elevated position. All respect.
But actually, there's also a very important point that if you're staying together all your life as a husband, then there's a big chance that you look at your wife and then you get a wife's next life, or the husband look at the wife because they are attached to each other. So
Like Gita 8.5 says, whatever you remember when you die, that's what you say. So if you remember your wife or your husband, that's what you say.
So that is very dangerous. And also to be chaste like that, in Sanskrit there's no name about double bed or something like that.
No.
It's a room for living in different rooms also.
So you mentioned in today's society, they're living in different parts of the house. The women, all the women, have their area. Maybe it's still some places in India, I think. And the men have their area.
I think it is just common sense that you have different bedrooms and like that. That's in general what I know. And if you're not planning to have a child, but I think that we have a guru. Both the husband has a guru and the wife has a guru. So that attachment to the guru is just so much greater in general than to the husband. So even if you stay together, you're also fed up like that. I believe with the limitations, even though you are, I think you just stay together as a matter of duty. Because if you stay together when you are 95, you know how much sense gratification can you squeeze out of that relationship, and your attachment and your taste of Krishna consciousness should be so great that there would be no more of this so much danger. And my point is just that we should not be so afraid either of the Grihastha ashram, but we should really enter it, if we do enter it, and that most does with that brahmachari mood.
Yeah, afraid? No, maybe not, but still be really cautious, right? One should think many times.